We've just had the new Q&A from New World and there really wasn't that much in it. Don't get me wrong, there are some interesting tidbits, but it was a little bit underwhelming if you're looking for news. Obviously that makes sense considering what we had last week with new expansions, season pass and all kinds of announcements, right? But one thing we're going to really focus here is, where is the PvP content? Before I talk about that though, let's just go through what they actually spoke about. So swimming is confirmed that it is actually coming to New World. They say it's on the table, but it's not a priority. Makes sense. They said they're not even working on it, but I sort of think we'll see it in an expansion. I think we'll see it at the end of this year. Interesting information when it comes to the season pass. They started discussing seasons in early 2022 and really started, I think, working on it in June 2022. That makes me sort of optimistic that what we're going to get in the expansion might be sort of radically different. Maybe I'm just high on the old copium there though. The season pass, if you are going to try and go from 1 to 100, then it is going to take you around 50 to 60 hours for most normal mortal human beings. They elaborated a little bit further on mounts. They say that mounts are going to be pretty much anything but normal, and they were hinting that I think the map might get a little bit bigger. They did mention we've seen that the UI in the PTR has a bit for the riding skill, and they did actually mention that profession, so that is confirmed as well. And they say that they're going to go with some unique gameplay tied to the mount system, and not only that, they're actually going to be using it as a foundation to build upon. Now, what does that entail? Obviously, we don't actually know. Let's wait and see, I think. But they're building it with growth in mind, so expanding on that system, which sounds really interesting. One thing that they mentioned that I'm very happy to hear is that they're thinking about refreshing the faction vendors. Quite simply, the amount of gear or the type of gear that you get in there right now is pretty much useless for the majority of the player base. I would have liked to have seen something where it was like a basic set for getting started in both PvE and PvP. It's not really that kind of thing because you wouldn't really get in any mutations if you were having the gear from there, and for PvP it's not high enough gear score. So that sounds pretty damn good. Now they did talk about the old season pass. So the old season pass is going to go away, which I think means you'll no longer be able to access that if you miss out. So if you don't play season 1, you ain't getting the season 1 stuff. Now if you bought season 1 and you don't get the stuff in it, then going off the PTR notes, it sort of sounds like it's going to go in some kind of vault. How you access that vault, I'm not really sure. But that does create a little bit of FOMO when it comes to the season passes. Now, let's talk about the main topic for this video, which is PvP. There was a question asking them, where is the PvP content? And I have to say, I found the answer a little bit underwhelming. Sure, they do actually make a point how they're going to be doing more balance changes more frequently, which I do think is a good thing. I think we lived in a world of bows and muskets for a little bit too long. They said they're a little bit worried about breaking things, but if things are already broke, how can you break it more, I guess? You can always tweak it back if you go too far. I mean, you know, I think we need balance updates just to keep the game feeling fresh and to stop metas becoming stale. They also spoke about how with those balance changes, they would do better at communicating it. That's fine and all. I don't really know how that will work. I'm not really a competitive PvPer. I really like PvP. It's actually my main type of content. I'm just not good enough to be a competitive PvPer. So I'm very interested in how they will actually communicate that with us. Right now, in the new meta on the PTR, I don't really know if I was going to maintain playing a bruiser, which I simply might not. What perks should I even be looking at? I don't know. I've not really had time to check that out, right? So I'll be interested there. But when it comes to content, they literally just mentioned the balance changes, the influence rework change, the new PvP arena map, and Cross-World Outpost Rush. Well, Cross-World Outpost Rush isn't coming until the end of the year. The new arena map, we have no idea when that's coming. And I don't want to be harsh, but like a new map where there's not actual gameplay tied to the map, it's literally just a visual thing. It doesn't sound like that hard to make is what I'm trying to say, right? It doesn't seem that difficult to create. I almost think that they realized that they were a little bit short on PvP content and they were like, hey, why don't we just make a new arena map? And everybody's like, yes, that won't take very long, let's do it. I'm possibly being a little bit harsh there and a little bit unfair, but when you consider that there isn't that much other PvP content planned, I don't know, I'm finding it difficult not to believe that. And that's pretty much all they said that there was. I mentioned it in another video. I thought the PvP influence changes was coming in this patch, in the spring patch. The way that we're talking about it like a couple months ago, they sort of sounded like it was on the precipice of coming out. No, it's actually going to be coming out in fall, I think, right? So we're looking at maybe like October. So as good as an idea as I think it is, I'm a little bit concerned that it's taken that long. I do think that that was probably delayed for reasons that obviously I don't know. But what else is there when it comes to PvP content? I mean, even Cross-Realm Outpost Rush, right, is just the same map. It's just that you can actually get games a little bit quicker. Well, if you're on a busy server, that's not really an issue, right? So I do think that there is definitely a dearth of content when it comes to PvP content. Hell, I would have been happy if they announced that when we get Cross-Realm PvP arenas and stuff like that, that maybe they'll look at doing 5v5s. Like they did actually mention that they'll maybe look at doing matchmaking. But I don't know, I just think they need to give us a little bit of a bone here. Otherwise, we're pretty much looking at 2 years of playing the same Outpost Rush map, one arena map that's going to get changed at some point in the way we don't actually know when. And then what's the PvP content? The world PvP change is coming, but that's again 2 years after the game's been out. And we don't actually know if that will succeed in creating world PvP. I don't know. I just think we're a little bit underwhelmed. I don't necessarily need it to be world PvP. I know a lot of you guys actually would prefer world PvP, but some kind of PvP content would be interesting. Even if they just stole from other games. I'm not saying this is a great idea, but having like is it the Gurabashi Arena in Stranglethorn Vale from World of Warcraft? Something like that. Just make a chest that comes down from the sky and people can fight over it or something. Like, just do something. At the minute, if you are a hardcore PvPer, it's hard to look at everything that we've had in New World and be super thrilled by it since launch. I wouldn't be surprised if they're scrambling a little bit, as I said, with the new PvP arena map to maybe think, oh, actually, we need some bigger changes. Now, maybe they have some bigger changes planned with the expansion and they're just not announcing it for whatever reason. Who knows? Either way, I was very underwhelmed by the Q&A when it came to PvP. I think here we pretty much know everything that's coming out in Season 1, so they're not really dropping teasers for Season 2 at this point. They're not ready for that, and they're definitely not ready to give us teasers for the expansion, so they're giving us very, very small amounts of nuggets, like with the mount system, right? So I wasn't really expecting to be overwhelmed, I was expecting to be whelmed. I don't know if that actually makes sense and if you can use that word like that, but that's what I was expecting. Instead, I come away with it a little bit underwhelmed. The PvP, just, I don't know, like I'm quite chill when it comes to the PvP content, but even I'm thinking at this point, they probably need a little bit more and sort of soonish. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to support the channel, becoming a YouTube member or a Patreon is truly the best way. However, I have started streaming a lot more on Twitch and I'm very grateful to the people who've been doing gifted subs and all that kind of good stuff over there. Much appreciate you guys. Possibly streaming tonight, it depends on the wife. My whole life is making sure that the wife doesn't hate me. What you guys should definitely do though is have a most beautiful day, like and subscribe. Goodbye.